Tucson police officers and domestic violence victims are saying call response times are dangerously long.
Sam Salzwedel even spoke to a retired sergeant who says the delays could be deadly in a News 4 Tucson investigation.
Just a sample of the public records we obtained show calls for police service taking hours. Some of those calls were for violations of orders of protection. Women who filed court orders to keep their exes away say those papers didn't do much to protect them.
He's just a horrible guy. I didn't trust him around my daughter. He's unpredictable.
Jane does not want to reveal her full name. She has an order of protection against her ex-boyfriend. She says she had to call police on him multiple times.
He would always leave when I went to call them, so in that way it was a deterrent, I guess. But I hoped that they would stop him from coming. Yeah.
Other cases show police responses that may be dangerously long. This woman filed an order of protection that says her boyfriend beat her up and threatened to kill her. When she called police on him, officers arrived about 1 hour later. Last April, another woman called 911 because an ex-boyfriend was knocking at her door and window. She had an order of protection against him. An officer did not arrive for 4 hours. Doug Music is a retired Tucson Police Department sergeant. His last assignment was supervising the domestic violence unit.
Domestic violence is the most dangerous calls that we respond to.
He says responses are too slow and detectives are not doing follow-up investigations.
In a DV call, that person is going to come back and it's going to escalate, and every time they come back it's going to re-escalate and it's going to get worse and worse and worse until somebody gets killed or an officer shows up and it's a very explosive situation and an officer gets hurt.
Generally, officers can only make an arrest if they catch somebody in the act of violating the order, but that requires a quick response.
One of those cases is going to erupt and somebody's going to die, and I have no doubt that's going to happen, and I'm surprised that it hasn't already, but I'd guarantee that it will.
The Tucson Police Officers Association provided this small sample of records. Roland Gutierrez is TPOA's president and a TPD patrol sergeant.
Cops are upset right now. They're frustrated. They're more embarrassed that they're not able to provide the quality of service that the citizens of Tucson deserve.
He says the only solution is better officer retention. Tucson trains them, but they leave to other agencies.
The solution is getting more cops on the street, having more cops to actually respond to these calls, because this is just one aspect that isn't getting a appropriate police response. There's many other calls that are getting the same negative response as well.
Tucson City Council member Steve Kozachik says TPD needs to consider making those order of protection calls a higher priority.
As to staffing, we have academies in place. Nobody's asleep at the wheel. We have lots of applicants. The challenge, though, is finding qualified applicants.
He says public safety is a priority, but not the only one.
Every year we look at this during our budget cycle. TPD competes with the fire department. They compete with roads. They compete with parks. They compete with all the other core services that we offer within the city of Tucson.
Until more officers are available, orders of protection don't provide as much protection as victims want.
It was a different officer, and she said, I'm sure somebody's already told you this, but this is just a piece of paper. And so it was the opposite of what he said, and it made me feel scared a little bit.
An order of protection could be effective if the officers are able to respond.
I don't want that on my conscience. I don't think any officer or detective wants to respond to a call and go, man, I wish we could have got here sooner, because now somebody's dead.
This fiscal year, the city has $3.9 million budgeted to train more officers. Victims and officers still strongly urge victims to get orders of protection in violent relationships. If you have a story you'd like us to investigate, email us at investigators@KVOA.com or call 955-4444. Investigating for you, Sam Salzwedel, News 4 Tucson.